staged twisted wire concoction. I don't know how to name this coil, but it's a stage coil. You see it in the picture right there. So basically it's a 0.11 ohm build. And I will say it right there in this tutorial. If you don't know about battery safety, if you don't know about like sub-ohm vaping, there's tons of video out there. There's tons of information out there. You should go watch it. I will do some video in the future explaining it. But for now, I do not have those resources on my channel. So you should definitely go check it out if you do not that. Do not attempt this coil build if you don't know what you are doing. If you don't know nothing about sub-ohm vaping, I will repeat this throughout the whole video, but do not attempt this build. It's a very low ohm build and you need to know what you're doing. But for those of you that know how to do it, and I've been experienced with sub-ohm vaping, this is a very cool build. It comes out at, like I said, 0.11 ohms, and it's fun to build, looks good, and it vapes like a charm. I really like it. For that low of a build, the flavor is amazing. It comes out with really big, surface area. So you have maximum vapor production, and you have it's not because of the stage. Stage means basically it uses different resistance wire in it. So it will start to eat up in different stages. The lower resistance wire will start eat up first, and then the higher resistance wire will eat up after. So you have kind of like a trigger effect, a staged effect. And it doesn't produce that hot of a vape for those big of a coil because there's 2 huge coils in it, but it still produces vape pretty quickly. If we'll test it out and see, still starts to produce vapor pretty quickly. So if you prime your mech mod first before taking an inhale, still have really good vapor production, super flavorful for that low of a build. It's a really fun, cool coil to build. So let's go down on the camera, and I will explain to you how I wrap it and how you can do this coil. 0.11 ohm, baby, in the little boy RDA. You have to be extremely careful. You have to know what you're doing with this build because it clocks in at 0.11 ohms. So it's an extremely low ohm build. So if you're not an experienced vapor and you don't know nothing about sub-ohm vaping and battery safety, I would not recommend trying this build at all. If you want to run it a little bit higher, then you can use only 1 coil. But if you're going with dual coil like this, then basically it's going to be very low, so 0.11. If you run it with 1, technically when you add 2 coils, it basically divides the resistance of one of the coils. So this one, if you're running it with single coil with the same technique, you will be at 0.22 ohms, about that, with only 1 coil. So I'll just show you how to do it, how to wrap it, and I will not show you how to install it in anything. Everybody, if you're watching this video and you want to build a 0.11 ohm build, you already know what you're doing, so you don't need me to explain to you how to install it in your RDA. So I will just explain to you how I did this coil in a close-up. Here you go. So it's a really cool build. I'll show it to you when it fires up too. I'll show it to you when it's firing up, okay? So you'll see why it's called a stage coil. There, you're gonna see that the lowest resistance wire will light up first, and then after that the other one will start. So this kind of like a chain reaction in the way it starts to eat up. You need to be very careful with that build. It's a build that is very low in ohms. So switch your batteries, put a brand new battery in it, and even when I do this, when I fire up the coil, I actually change battery after because this makes it hot. So you need to be very, very cautious when you're doing this. So for this coil, you will need 3 things. You will need a 28 gauge cantle and 26 gauge cantle. You will need the 28 gauge cantle to be straightening out. You're an experienced vapor but you don't know how to straighten up cantle, I will have a video later on that, but you can also check on YouTube for different channels. They will show you how to straighten up cantle. So 2 strands of straighten up 28 gauge cantle, and then after that you will need 2 strands of straighten up 26 gauge cantle, and then twist it together. So this is 2 strands of cantle, if it will focus. Two strands of 26 cantle that are twisted together. So again, this is another thing. If you don't know how to do it, you can find many videos that will show you how to straighten up cantle, and then after that how to twist it together. You will need a power drill for it. Again, safety, this is a very low ohm build. So what you do for building this coil, it's a 7 wrap coil on a 2.4 millimeter drill bit or screwdriver. And then what you will do is that you will line up your 2 types of wires. So basically what you're going to do is put one of the straighten up 28 gauge cantle, the twisted 26 gauge cantle in the middle, and then after that another strand of 28 gauge cantle straightened out. And you're going to put them together like this so they are all parallel to each other. And once you put them parallel, you will start your wrapping like so. So I put them here. You know, starting this wrap is a little bit difficult, but then once you get started, normally it stays really nice and it goes pretty well. I did not eat this these wire before doing it because it's pretty easy to work with when it's straightened out. So you will start wrapping it. So basically 7 wraps. So 1, 2, 3. Make sure that your wires don't overlap each other like I did right there. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Sorry if it's hard to see, but it's not the easiest thing to do on camera. And then here you have your coil. So 7 wraps. Let's hope that this won't focus. So basically you really want to make sure, because you're going to have one at the beginning, you have 1 small strand, then the twisted wire, 2 small strand, twisted wire, 2 small strand, twisted wire. So you just need to make sure that on the coil itself that everything lines up really well and really nicely. Once that is all lined up and nicely coiled, then you will just insert it in your RBA, eat it up, positioned it, and everything. On the little boy, there's I did drill the holes on each of the negative and the positive post to make them a little bit bigger, so that way it's easier to insert. But it's actually a really easy build. And then I do make sure that my leads going into the post are about like 2 millimeter to 3 millimeter long, so that way I can twist it like this so it's at an angle, just so, because I think it juices better, but also you don't have space. It's still a long coil, so if you put it straight, it's going to be a little bit harder to position it and make sure that nothing touches. It produces really hot vapor, but at the same time it's still manageable. With the little boy, you got like very good ventilation on it, so when you're taking a big drag of that, there's no problem and it doesn't get too hot, and you can still take long hits. But again, very low ohm build, so you have to be extremely careful with this. For wicking it, I use Japanese cotton and just insert it in it, slide it in, and then take my tweezers, slide it all the way. And what I like to do with this build is tuck this one. I do not cut it, and I tuck it to make a little ball under the little ball of cotton under the coil right there, so I have a nice area so for the juice to suck up in the coil. And then this part here, this lead here, I try to shove it to go where the in between the positive and the negative post on the other side. So it will stay here, and it will also make a nice area for the juice to accumulate. I tried to leave a good space here, an empty space in this area here, so that way when my air comes in from my vent holes, because on the little boy there's a big cyclop air hole here, so I try to make this space empty here so that the air goes under the coil, and then when you're pulling on it, it goes this way, so you have like good ventilation keeping this coil cool, and so you're going to be able to take in more vapor when you vape it. and that's how I wick this. So basically I just do it the same thing on the other coil, and then here you have it, the dual coil stage build with twisted wire and straighten up cantle. Looks really good, really low build. Again, I will repeat this, be extremely careful. It's an extremely low ohm build, and you need to know what you're doing. So let's vape this sucker. So I hope you enjoyed this build video. I will have videos later in the future that will cover, like I said, the twisted wire and how to strain up cantle wire. But for now, I do not have those videos, but there's tons of resources out there on YouTube and on the internet that can explain to you how to do that. But again, if you are not an experienced sub-ohmer vapor and you do not have knowledge in battery safety and everything, like for example, I did this video, I already switched 3 times battery just to be safe. It's not a long process, and I didn't use my mech mod and my RDA that much, but just to be safe. It didn't get hot. I never with this build yet had my mech mod or anything get hot, but it's just about safety. You're still playing with you know, high voltage, and it can blow up, your battery can vent. There's so many things that can happen. So if you do not know what you're doing, please do not attempt this build, please. So this was Hugo for Vape Time TV. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will come up with a more cool looking and a nice performing coil build in the future. Thank you for watching.